What if a $100,000 guitar could only be saved by a girl everyone ignored? At a luxury music store in Nashville, the owner, Derek King, rejected her instantly, but she didn't come to beg. She came for a guitar that belonged to her father. When everyone called her a nobody, a man in a gray cap silently watched from the corner. No one knew he was a legend. And then it happened. She sat down, touched the strings, and played. In seconds, the entire store froze because that moment revealed a truth no one expected. And this is where the real story begins. Let's continue, he told the young black girl. That $100,000 guitar isn't something you can afford. But instead of backing down, she calmly lifted the $100,000 guitar, sat on the stool at the center of the store, and began to play. Yet before that moment, before the silence that froze everyone in place, there had been a man in a gray cap sitting quietly in the corner, observing everything from the very beginning, and no one had any idea who he was. You should leave now, Derek King said without even glancing up from his computer. A 42-year-old manager of Harmon Strings, the most expensive music shop in Nashville, dressed in a suit without a tie, his hair perfectly arranged, the kind of man who judged people by their appearance. And Maya Ramirez, with her worn sneakers, faded jeans, and taped-up backpack, clearly didn't meet his standards. I said, "You can leave," he repeated, this time looking up, his eyes not filled with anger but with effortless contempt, the kind that exists before a word is even spoken. Maya was 18. It was a Tuesday in October, and she had traveled across 4 states by bus just to reach that store. "I want to see the guitar," she said firmly, surprising even herself. Derek slowly stood, walked around the counter with a sense of superiority, stopped a few feet away, crossed his arms, and said, "You don't have the money for that guitar." Not as a question, but as a statement. Everyone in the store heard it, yet no one spoke. But Maya didn't look away and replied, "I didn't ask the price," which caused a flicker of irritation on Derek's face, as he was used to intimidating people with silence and the luxurious atmosphere of the store, with its soft lighting, glass displays, and quiet carpet, all designed to make certain people feel unwelcome. Lowering his voice slightly, he said, "That guitar costs $100,000, so leave before I call security." And at that exact moment, Maya noticed the man in the gray cap in the far corner, partially hidden behind equipment, holding a coffee cup and watching closely without intervening. Turning back to Derek, she took a breath and walked toward the display where the guitar was kept, a sign reading 1962 Gibson Les Paul Custom, $100,000, do not touch. And instead of grabbing it, she gently placed her fingers on the glass as if reconnecting with something lost. Derek's tone sharpened. "You need to leave now." But Maya turned and for the first time smiled, asking, "Do you even know who built this guitar?" And when he didn't respond, she said, "I knew you wouldn't." Then opened her backpack, pulled out an old envelope, and placed it on the counter. Confusion spread across the store as even the man in the gray cap stood up slightly, paying closer attention. The name on the envelope read, Raymond Ramirez, and when Derek asked what it was, Maya calmly replied, "A letter from the man who built this guitar," then added that Raymond Ramirez, a luthier with 23 years of experience, had crafted it as his final piece before dying 6 years earlier. And although Derek dismissed it coldly, saying it changed nothing and that she had no proof, Maya turned toward the man in the gray cap, recognizing something familiar in his face from an old video she had watched countless times as a child. The man then approached Derek and quietly asked to speak with him, his calm voice carrying authority that made Derek hesitate for the first time. And as they moved aside, Maya noticed Derek's expression shift from confusion to tension, and then to something resembling embarrassment. Meanwhile, a young employee offered Maya water, which she politely declined as she focused on the guitar, its aged mahogany glowing with a deep honey tone she recognized from a photo of her father holding the same wood years ago. In the background, Derek stood frozen, clearly shaken by what he had just learned, while the man in the gray cap revealed himself as Marcus Young, a legendary guitarist known by those who truly understood music, though he avoided public attention. Maya realized who he was because her father had once spoken of him with admiration. When Derek returned, his tone had changed, and he admitted there were issues with the guitar's ownership records, explaining that when Raymond sold it years ago, he included a clause giving his daughter the right of first refusal in any future sale, a clause that had been ignored multiple times, including by the store. As the truth unfolded, it became clear that the guitar had been on the verge of being sold to a collector who intended to lock it away forever, effectively erasing its history. Maya, calm but firm, pointed out her legal right, and with Marcus silently supporting her, Derek finally opened the display case. The moment felt endless as Maya held the guitar for the first time. Its weight carrying years of memories, her father's late-night work, and his dreams. She sat down where Marcus had been and began to play, not hesitantly but with confidence, as if her hands already knew the instrument, and the sound filled the entire store. Stopping everyone in their tracks, employees froze, customers stared, and Marcus himself stood completely still, listening without moving for nearly a minute. When she finished, the silence was overwhelming, and although she didn't realize it, someone had recorded everything. That video spread rapidly online, gaining millions of views within hours, not just because of the music, but because of the story behind it, the humiliation, her father's legacy, and her journey across states to find that guitar. By the next morning, calls flooded in from media, record labels, and filmmakers, and soon Marcus Young himself offered her a chance to record an instrumental album named after her father, which she accepted immediately. Meanwhile, legal action confirmed her rightful claim to the guitar, and even the collector agreed to return it after being deeply moved by her performance. The guitar was delivered back to her with a simple handwritten apology, and Derek King lost his job shortly after, while the store introduced new policies welcoming everyone equally. Months later, Maya released her album, which became a global success, and when asked what she wanted people to feel, she simply said that someone created this with love, and that love never disappears. It just waits to be heard again. He warned her that a $100,000 guitar wasn't meant for someone like her. But instead of stepping back, the young girl quietly lifted the expensive instrument, moved to the center stool of the store, and started playing. Yet before this moment of stunned silence filled the room, there had been a man wearing a gray cap sitting in the corner, silently observing everything from the very beginning, and nobody knew his identity. "You need to leave," Derek King said without looking up from his desk. The manager of Harmon Strings in Nashville, dressed sharply in a suit, speaking with the confidence of someone who judged people instantly based on appearance. And Maya Ramirez, with her worn-out shoes, old jeans, and a damaged backpack, clearly didn't fit into his world. "I told you, leave," he repeated, finally looking at her with cold indifference rather than anger, the kind of look meant to make people feel small before they even speak. Maya was 18. It was a Tuesday in October, and she had crossed several states by bus just to reach that shop. "I need to see the guitar," she replied firmly, even surprising herself with her confidence. Derek stood up slowly, walked around the counter with pride, stopped close to her, folded his arms, and stated, "You cannot afford that guitar," not as a question, but as a fact. Everyone heard it, but no one reacted. Yet Maya didn't move and simply said, "I never asked the price," which irritated him because he was used to controlling people through silence and the luxurious atmosphere of glass displays, soft lights, and quiet carpets designed to intimidate outsiders. Lowering his voice, he added, "That guitar is worth $100,000. Now leave before I call security." And right then, Maya noticed the man in the gray cap again, partially hidden in the corner, holding a coffee end. Watching everything carefully without interfering, she turned back to Derek, took a breath, and walked toward the glass case, where a sign read, 1962 Gibson Les Paul, custom, $100,000, do not touch. And instead of touching it directly, she placed her hand gently on the glass as if feeling a connection through it. Derek's voice became sharper. "Leave immediately." But Maya turned slightly, smiled for the first time, and asked, "Do you even know who created this guitar?" And when he stayed silent, she said, "I thought so," then opened her backpack and placed an old envelope on the counter. Confusion spread across the room, as even the man in the gray cap straightened slightly, paying closer attention. The envelope had the name Raymond Ramirez written on it. And when Derek asked what it was, Maya calmly explained it was a letter from the original maker of the guitar, her father, who had built it as his final masterpiece before passing away 6 years earlier. Derek dismissed it immediately, saying it changed nothing and that she had no proof, but Maya turned toward the man in the gray cap, noticing something familiar in his face from an old video she had once seen. The man then walked toward Derek and asked to speak privately, his calm presence carrying authority that made Derek hesitate for the first time. As they stepped aside, Maya noticed Derek's expression shift from confidence to discomfort and then uncertainty. A staff member offered her water, which she politely refused, keeping her focus on the guitar glowing inside the case, its warm wood reminding her of memories linked to her father's workshop. In the background, Derek stood frozen after hearing the truth, while the man in the gray cap revealed himself as Marcus Young, a well-known guitarist respected by those in the music world, but rarely seen in public. Maya immediately recognized him because her father had always spoken about him with admiration. When Derek returned, his attitude had changed, and he admitted there were legal issues with the guitar's ownership history, explaining that her father had included a clause giving Maya the right of first refusal on any sale, a detail that had been ignored multiple times by the store. As everything came to light, it was revealed that the guitar was about to be sold to a collector who would have locked it away forever, erasing its story. Maya calmly asserted her rights, and with Marcus silently confirming her claim, Derek finally unlocked the display case. The moment felt heavy as Maya held the guitar for the first time, feeling its weight filled with memories of her father's passion and sacrifices. She sat where Marcus had been and began to play, not hesitating but with full confidence, as if the instrument already belonged to her hands, and the sound filled the entire store, freezing everyone in place. Customers stopped, staff went silent, and even Marcus stood still for nearly a minute, fully absorbed in the music. When she finished, the silence was deep and emotional, and without her knowing, someone had recorded the entire moment. The video spread rapidly online within hours, not only because of her performance, but because of the emotional story behind it, her struggle, her father's legacy, and her journey across states. By the next morning, media outlets, producers, and music companies reached out, and Marcus Young himself offered her a chance to record an album dedicated to her father, which she accepted. Shortly after, legal confirmation proved her ownership of the guitar, and even the collector returned it after being moved by her performance. The guitar was sent back with a handwritten apology. Derek King was removed from his position, and the store changed its policies to treat all customers equally. Months later, Maya released her album, which became internationally successful, and when asked about her goals, she simply said, "I just want people to feel that this music was made with love, and real love never disappears. It only waits to be heard again."